with Apache helicopters, Bradley fighting vehicles, and we go back into this nice little village asking questions. And you know, it's a pretty good history in Iraq. You know, if you got beef with your neighbor back in Saddam's day, you just say, "Hey, police, they said something bad about Saddam. Why don't you go get them?" And they take them and they torture them. Well, now here with the U.S., we're asking who are the troublemakers, and we hear from the people in the village that these people are troublemakers over here. So we go, and myself and another soldier steps off, and we toss the hut. Well, the only thing I find is a little .22 pistol, not AK-47s, not RPGs, not pictures of Saddam, not large caches of money. But we end up taking the two young men regardless. And I looked at my sergeant and I was like, "Sergeant, these aren't the men that we're looking for." And he told me, "Don't worry. I'm sure they would have done something anyways." And this mother, all the while, is crying in my face, trying to kiss my feet. And, you know, I can't speak Arabic. I can speak human. She was saying, "Please, why are you taking my sons? They have done nothing wrong." And that made me feel very powerless. You know, I was 82nd Airborne Division Infantry with Apache helicopters, Bradley fighting vehicles, and my armor, my M4. I was powerless. I was powerless to help her. And I was very naive back then. I thought that, you know, they would just take them and find out, yeah, they don't know anything. But later I found out people who were detained are being detained for years. Parents don't even know where their children are. And the lack of humanity in war, the place where you put yourself is, when you look at it in back, it's almost alien. We were driving down Baghdad one day, and we found a dead body on the side of the road. So we all pulled over to secure it and wait for MPs or whatever authorities would come and take care of this dead man here who was clearly murdered. And my friends jumped off and started taking pictures with him, you know, with big old smiles on their faces, you know. And they said, "Hey, Vijus, you know, you want your picture with this guy?" And I said, "No." But no, not in the context of that's really messed up because it's just wrong on an ethical basis. But I said no because it wasn't my kill. You shouldn't take trophies for things you didn't kill. I mean, that's what my mindset was back then. Because I wasn't even upset that this man was really dead. They shouldn't have been taking credit for something they didn't do.
Hart Vijus, speaking at Winter Soldier. Vijus fought with the 82nd Airborne Division. After he returned from Iraq, he was granted conscientious objector status. A correction on the number of soldiers killed in Iraq at last count, 3,990. We'll have more after break. Jazz Nova here on Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, The War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman. We're broadcasting from the nation's capital in Washington, D.C. As we mark this week's 5th anniversary of the U.S. invasion of Iraq, we return now to our coverage of Winter Soldier. The term Winter Soldier is a play on Thomas Paine's words in 1776 when he spoke of the Sunshine Patriot and summertime soldiers who deserted at Valley Forge. These are the voices of winter soldiers.
My name is Jason Washburn. I was a corporal in the United States Marine Corps, in which I served 4 years. I did 3 tours in Iraq. My first 2 tours were with the 1st Battalion, 4th Marines, Charlie Company, and my 3rd tour was with 3rd Battalion, 1st Marines Weapon Company. I was in the initial invasion, and eventually after the invasion was done, we settled down in Al-Hila. This was in 03. From 04 to 05, I was in Najaf, and from 05 to 06, I was in Haditha. During the course of my 3 tours, the rules of engagement changed a lot. It seemed like every time we turned around, we had different rules of engagement, and they told us the reasons they were changing them was because it depended on the climate of the area at the time, what the threat level was deemed to be, and the higher the threat level was, the more viciously we were permitted and expected to respond. And for example, during the invasion, we were told to use target identification before engaging with anyone, but if the town or the city that we were approaching was a known threat, if the unit that went through the area before we did took a high number of casualties, we were basically we were allowed to shoot whatever we wanted. It was deemed to be a free fire zone. So we would roll through the town, and anything that we saw, everything that we saw, we engaged it and opened fire on everything. And let's see. And there was really, there was really no rule governing the amount of force we were allowed to use on targets during the invasion. I remember one woman was walking by, and she was carrying a huge bag, and she looked like she was heading towards us. So we lit her up with the Mark 19, which is an automatic grenade launcher. And when the dust settled, we realized that the bag was only full of groceries. And she had been trying to bring us food, and we blew her to pieces for it. After the invasion ended and Bush declared mission accomplished, the rules changed pretty drastically. Instead of actually firing, we used a lot of, I guess, close combat, just hand-to-hand type stuff, just simple hand-to-hand violence to subdue people. There were a lot of times where we would be out on foot patrols, and we were ordered to not allow people to pass through our patrol formation. And unsuspecting villagers would try to pass through or cut through the formation, and we would butt stroke them, jab them with the muzzle, kick them or whatever, just get them out of the formation. And one time there was a guy on a bicycle with a basket full of groceries, and he tried to just roll through, and we clotheslined him and smashed up his bicycle for what? Passing through the formation. And but this is like what we were expected to do. And in another instance, we were ordered to guard a fuel station. At the end of the day, like nothing had happened, and we had mounted up into our trucks, and right when we were about to take off, a bunch of people, Iraqi people, rushed to the fuel pumps to try to take some fuel. And our squad leader called it in, and the response was over the radio was, "What do you think we want you to do? Go F them up." Obviously, in more colorful, language, but so we jumped off the trucks and charged at the Iraqis, and we really beat the hell out of them. And with rifles, fists, feet, everything else that we had,